Welcome back, YouTube. First thing I want to do is I want to say thank you for the 6,283 subscribers. It means a lot. I never thought when I started doing this channel that I would end up with that many subscribers, and it's humbling to say the least. But I want to thank everybody for their support. I want to thank everybody for viewing, the ones that have shared. Me and Zach are doing something totally different tonight that I don't normally do on video. I want to get a camera eventually set up to where you can see my powder paint and see what it is. So when I talk about it needs to be fluffy, it needs to have a lot of air in it. When you shake it back and forth, it looks just like water inside there. Very, very light, very, very fluffy. And this is a pretty easy process. But what we're going to do is I'm going to paint 20 jig heads. I got 10 1/8 ounce and I got 10 1/16 ounce. And we are going to powder coat them solid chartreuse, and then we're going to sprinkle a little black in them. So we're going to do a two-tone paint on our jig head. I got him using the heat gun because he's doing a lot of really small ones, and I'm going to be using a propane torch. So we're doing 2 of them at a time. I got 2 different orders going. The ones I'm painting, I'm going to tie up. The ones he's painting are just going to a customer. It's actually going to Lyle Stokes. You need to check out his channel too, Panfish Weekly. Awesome show. He has great guests, good information. But let's get to painting some jig heads. So I turned my heat down to where it's kind of a medium heat like that. Very light heat. I got my jig and a pair of hemostats. To me, it makes it a whole lot easier. Doing the 2-coat, I've actually got to hold it in my left hand, dip it, and then sprinkle it. It's kind of awkward. But I'm going to get this peak vise out of the way so I got a little more room here to work. Slide that out of the way. And let's get the paint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my paintbrush, thin brush. I'm going to load it up with black paint. And I'm going to lay it right here to have it ready. This is kind of a bad setup because you can't really see what I'm doing, but I'm holding that jig head over the heat. 4 seconds. Dip it in the powder paint, pull it out, and then sprinkle the black on it. And then you'll see it'll start to dry, and it'll start to run out. Very, very simple, easy process, but I usually dip mine, I hang them up to dry, and then I put them in the oven for 20 minutes at 350 degrees. As long as you sprinkle it on while it's still hot, it blends right in. But like I said, it is a pretty easy process. When I do it, I clip right onto the eye of the jig head. That'll help keep paint out of that eye. One thing you got to remember with the powder coat, when you get done powder coating it and you've got powder coat paint in that eye, poke it out before you put it in that oven, because once it bakes on, you'll never be able to get it back out. That's how it comes out. Pretty simple. It's an easy process. You can get powder paints at a lot of places. Bass Pro sells it. You can get it from ProTech online. I get all mine from Jason Brummel, Jason's Tackle. But we'll try to move that camera here in a second so you can see what I'm doing with the torch. Actually, we might try to set it up on this table, that way you can kind of see it a little bit better. Just rearrange a few things. Kind of see it like that. We're going to stir our paint up one more time. You got to be careful with the chartreuse. Some colors are a little bit different. Some go on really smooth, some go on really easy. Chartreuse is one that'll clump up on you. It'll get thick pretty fast. Red is another one. Red is a headache. So we're going to put it in the flame. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to just dip it in our powder coat. Just kind of swish around. Tap it clean a little bit. Sprinkle the black on it. All this stuff that I show on my YouTube channel is stuff that you can do yourself. Every once in a while, you got to go back and get that powder coat off the head of your hemostats, or it starts bulking up there at the out of the jig head. Same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's it. Zach's doing all solid colors on some of the ones he's got. These, the guy that bought these wanted a chartreuse body and a black and chartreuse tail, so we're going to make our jig head as close to what he wanted as I can get. Make it to where it all blends in all nice and neat. And these are headed to Bachelor, Louisiana. I've sent a lot of jigs to Louisiana this year, more than I probably ever have. Sent a lot to Louisiana, sent a lot to Texas. When I get in a bigger size jig head, 16th, 1/8 ounce, I think the propane torch might be a little bit easier. But when you get into 32nd ounce jig head, 64s, the heat gun is definitely the way to go. And if you don't heat a jig head up hot enough and you dip it in and it comes back out and it's still kind of powdery looking, you can hang it right back over top that heat gun and get that paint to liquefy on it. Propane torch is a little bit different. Once you've got it on there and you put it back on with paint on it, you'll usually burn it up. It's an easy process, but it took a little while to master it. But you get the feel for it pretty quick. Makes for a pretty jig head. I know that when you start blending those colors together. When you do it, use the light color as your base, the darker color as your second coat. Now we got 10 more 16th ounce ones to go. Two. Gonna be a little bit different. We're gonna heat this one up a whole lot faster. Actually about the same amount of time, about 4 seconds on the 16th ounce one too. You can tell when you heat it up, that lead will get really, really shiny. That's when you want to pull it out. There's a very fine line between being very shiny and dripping all over your table. Very fine line. You don't really run into that with the heat gun. The heat gun, I don't think I've ever completely melted one away on the heat gun. Two-tone jig heads. Easy to do. And I used to get all my jig heads painted, but it got to the point where I was ending up with a lot of jig heads that I didn't need, because I wouldn't order just, you know, a dozen this color. I'd usually order like 100 of them. But painting my own jig heads, I've got a little more control over inventory, what I got. Instead of having 100 chartreuse ones, I just have exactly what's on order. It's simple. Chartreuse and red, that's a really good color too. It comes out pretty neat looking. That one was a little bit clumpy. That's telling me that I need to stir my paint a little bit more. I don't know if you can see it. It might already kind of blend it in a little bit. That's a horrible focus anyway. Turn that heat gun back on. Alright, that's good. Watch your arm, don't catch your arm on fire. But it's a whole lot easier to reheat it and get some of those bulky spots out with the heat gun. Stir that paint up a little bit. That's all I use to stir it with, something small. Oh, that's much better. About every 4 or 5 jig heads if you're not using the fluid bed. And as you can see, I'm not using the fluid bed. I have one, but sometimes it's a lot easier just to do it like this. Sometimes that fluid bed causes more problems than it helps. If I was going to paint maybe 100 right in a row, I would probably use that fluid bed, but this was an order of 20. So I didn't really hook it up for that. I got an order of 100 coming up, but they'll all be different colors. So I probably still won't use the fluid bed. We've got like 4 or 5 more to go. Like I said, get a good clamp right there on the eye of your jig head. I usually put mine at just a little bit of an angle. It makes it a little bit easier when you dip it in like that. It goes in kind of straight, goes in a little bit neater. Oh, see? Very fine line. We trashed that one. Got it shiny and held on to it just a little bit too long. Once you do that, really ain't no saving that jig head. It's gone, it's over. And you can two-tone with a lot of colors. A lot of times I'll do a solid white dip, pink brush on. Pretty good. I'll try to get a camera. Try to get this set up where I got a little better angle. I was actually going to tie jigs tonight, but then I realized I didn't have enough painted, so we had to paint them first. Look like little marbles when you're done with them, or Easter eggs. We got one more I got to replace for the one that melted. Got them right here. One more, and then we can start tying these up. Dropped it. Not sure where it went. One other thing you got to be careful with your hemostats about keeping them clean. You will a powder paint starts building up in it, and you think you got to clamp down real tight until you heat it up a little bit. And once you heat it up, then that paint liquefies on it, and then your jig head slides. That's what happened there. I had one slide and fall off and land on the floor somewhere. So I use a pair of any type of pliers work. Give it a good twist in there and it'll bust all that dried up paint. It don't take long for that paint to set up. And that'll get you back to a good pair of clean hemostats. So you know when you grip it, it's not going to come back loose again like that one did. If I ain't careful, it's going to end up in my foot. Paint your own jig heads. It's easy. Don't let it scare you. Get some jig heads. We'll get you some powder paint, propane torch, or a heat gun. Heat gun might be the easiest way to do it because you're not going to overheat them. Powder painted Bass Pro for a jar like this, and I think that is 2 ounces, like $9. I get these from Jason Brummel for, I want to say it was like $7, and there's 3 ounces in that. And this paint goes a very, very long way. You know, pick you up a few killers, pick you up a torch, heat gun, paint your jig head, tie your jig head, and go catch you a big fat crappie with it. Pretty satisfying. Like I said, again, I want to thank everybody for all the subscribers. I really appreciate that. If you got any questions on painting jig heads, I will try to answer them. I'm not the expert, but I've painted probably a couple thousand. And he's got like 450 more to go. But hey, it's 2:30 in the morning. What else are you going to do? Paint some jig heads. Like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Like I said, next time I'll try to get a better camera angle so you can actually see down inside the powder. Like I said, like, share, subscribe. Hit that bell. Thank you so much for viewing my channel. It means a lot to me. Send me messages. Let me know what you think, what you want to see. Maybe next time we'll put him in a little bit more of. We'll make him start tying some in front of the camera. That's all I got, YouTube. Have a good evening.